So professional. I thought somebody would have a video camera in their hand and.
And you're gonna ask us the two questions?
Yes.
Julian's gonna ask you. So he's gonna stand here.
So look at
So
him.
you look at this camera and you speak to him.
You go first.
One of my fondest memories of Pericles was during the first year assembly. The faculty speaker was Anju Paul, and she was leading the students in a Game of Thrones style allegiance to the college. And out of the corner of my eye, I could see Pericles getting choked up as the students were chanting in unison the vision statement for the school.
And I've always found him to be a very kind and a considerate person. In a way, he looks at a complete person. And then in other capacities where I've worked with him to consider appointments and all this, this comes true again and again. So I find him a very kind and honest individual.
Presently, the reason and most fondest was for him dancing in Shanice's capstone. He danced quite well.
I guess the fondest memory would be Pericles at Chinese New Year. He always wears a red shirt.
Pericles gave me a very warm welcome. He's a very generous sort of person, and I can say that a good proportion of his personal library will come to Yale-NUS.
I know Pericles to be a very approachable and warm person.
My fondest memory of Pericles is him coming for my wedding. Thanks again. Glad you had a good time.
Pericles was making a whole bunch of jokes to the whole town hall, and I kind of realized, oh, this feels different than some of the other universities, and I was laughing the whole time, and it kind of set a tone that was really energetic and enthusiastic.
I was setting up tables and chairs for appreciation lunch in RC4 dining hall. You're very volunteer to help me even though in the midnight.
For my mass emails on safety and health, he had replied with references and whatever resources he has, which may not be his area of expertise, but it also gives me a feeling that safety is very important for him.
He's a very accommodating resident. He never rejects any of our requests or entering to his apartment to do any servicing or any repair.
Boss, you are always smile and great. It's make me feel warm. As thanks a lot I working with you. Nandri.
I'm so glad that you are such a great boss. You were able to make quick decisions there and then, so that really is a lot of worries from me.
When we went to the Philippines together as part of a week 7, his great aunt had been trapped along with a bunch of American and Filipino soldiers at the beginning of World War II to see this other side of Pericles tied to one of his ancestors, and a kind of playful side where we were with all the students wandering around tunnels in the middle of the night.
When we did a week 7 together in the Philippines, and the night that we stayed on an island, we all gathered in, I think, the only cafe on the island. I remember looking at the scene at the moment and thinking, this is sort of the epitome of the best of what Yale-NUS can be. Seeing the president with his sleeves rolled up, crammed in on this little table with a bunch of freshmen from all over the world, talking about world history and making it so personal.
A college president sets the tone for the whole college, and as one of the people who lives here on campus, what's always been so striking to me is that our president, who has so much else to do, you find him in the gym every morning, and the thing that that I'll always find most frustrating is no matter how early you get up, you can't beat Pericles to the gym.
He's almost like ever-presence in many areas, not just in the gym, right? If I'm in a food court, I see him there. He's just not president, as a role, but I see that he's really sincere and very much wanting to engage not just with students, but with staff and faculty as well.
My fondest memory of Pericles was actually, he mentioned this phrase that the students should have this ethos of service, and I resonated with it because not only the students, but all of us, the staff, the faculty, the whole community should be able to embody this ethos of service so that we can actively learn and build the Yale-NUS community together.
My husband shot me and said, "You gotta wake up and see this newspaper article. Your president wrote about one of the projects that we did." Immediately we turned to each other and said, how did he know about this project? Because it was a very small project that we had just started and not many people knew about it. Within seconds, I turned around and said, well, that's President Lewis for you.
Pericles has been an amazingly trusting and trustworthy president. And not only that, he's had this terrific interest in building traditions in the college. And my fondest memory really is the way he has opened up his apartment to us as faculty for special occasions, made sure that we all understood the artwork that was in his apartment, brought students into his home to entertain us and to sing.
We were in his office, and on a countertop there were two pictures. One of himself with Her Royal Highness Mahachakri Sirinthorn of Thailand. And so we started the conversation because I felt that of all people that he met, he chose Princess Sirinthorn as a picture. And I think he's a very sensitive and very charismatic person, and I will miss him very much.
My fondest memory of Pericles relates to his commitment to teaching in higher education. We had a workshop run by the Center for Teaching and Learning on Teaching with Media project, and Pericles showed up like a regular faculty member would. He had notes, he had his clipboard, he was ready to share and to learn, and I really admired his energy for the classroom.
Pericles, the moments I remember arguing with you about the merits of candidates after one of the big recruitment workshops at RC4, I remember sort of marveling at your ability to keep the whole enterprise going without showing visible effort.
I walk in for my interview, and Pericles pulls out a huge notebook. He sort of dramatically turns the tab. He said, so Andrew, on page 40 of your dissertation, you said blah, blah, blah. And then proceeded to ask about it. This comes to mind, though, because of the level of attention to detail required to run that first search.
When I first met him at my interview, I thought I had not got the job because the first thing you said to me, Pericles, was, oh, you're dressed in a suit. If I'd known, I would have dressed in a suit too. And I thought, oh no, I'm overdressed for the interview with the president. This is really bad.
I remember going home and bringing all my 19th century poets to the office because I was so stressed that I needed to find the right quote for your speech. I think another thing that the team all remembers as well is that we'd often bump into you at Starbucks, and it got to a point where we knew if we had something urgent and we couldn't find you, that maybe, Starbucks was the place to go.
Today we're actually opening the 12th edition of Experience Yale-NUS Weekend, and I remember you flying in and teaching a class at the first ever one, and you gave a class on modern literature and the kids loved it.
I just remember my second week of work here running into you in the laundry room and just seeing you carry your basket of laundry and just really appreciating that my college president did laundry in the same space as I did.
What stands out to me the most about you and your presence on this campus is just how present you are, and knowing that no matter where we show up, student events, day or night, we know that we can count on you to be here. That will be sorely missed on campus.
We planned the first donor dinner, and unfortunately I fell ill and was hospitalized. While at the hospital and on the hospital bed, I read an email from Pericles thanking me for helping to plan the event.
I think my fondest memory of him will be the optimism that he brings and the laughter that he brings.
But the most striking one for me is in this folder. I should apologize in advance to Pericles for rekindling this. Here it goes.
Hey, Pericles, what impressed me was your physical semblance to one of my favorite actors, Robin Williams. And over the years that I've been with you, you've been very friendly, very approachable, and you always had time to listen.
I have a very fond impression of working with Pericles, largely because he's been very personable. He's always has a very ready smile.
I came from the corporate world, so the CEO and president are usually the frightening people. But when I first met the president, he was all smile and warm.
What impresses me very much is that he knows his staff by names, and he has a very open communication approach for all the staff.
To me, he's a very warm and caring person, a very caring boss. He has a very good memory that he can remember so many things, very detailed, especially in finance, when we are doing the manpower budget, he can remember.
Hey, that's my line. You see?
Pericles, I'm actually, I'm very fond of you, and you amaze me with your numbers, and you're the very first CEO that I worked with that You can do mental calculations before even I could press the numbers in the calculator. He's always able to come up with the perfect statistics delivery, right? And it's not quite what you would expect of someone who has been doing comparative literature and English for his entire life. It was when he introduced himself to us and just casually says, okay, I'm Pericles. There was no President Pericles, there's no Professor Lewis or something. So for me, it really collapses that distance between him and the administrative staff.
Recently, we were giving a lab tour to the governing board, and a student was describing his research project. Pericles was looking on with earnest interest, trying to understand. It was clear that Pericles, as an English professor, was getting a little more confused and bewildered, and it was just fun to watch his face change as the student was going into this detailed explanation. But it was clear he really was trying to understand the concepts.
The memory that will stick in my mind longest is that of the hug between him and Charles when Charles had given his speech announcing he was stepping down. So that really encapsulated for me the very strong bond of leadership together that had pulled the college through quite a bit, quite a testing period when we were in New Haven.
I think the very first memory I have of Pericles is when he was just appointed president, and he took the time, I think the very first week, to call all the faculty members, the inaugural faculty, and have a conversation about what we thought the role of the president should be in the new college.
I'll always remember sitting with Pericles up in front of a room of a couple hundred angry students. That's burned into my memory. And why is it one of my fondest? Because it was the two of us sitting there and kind of tag teaming on questions and working with the community together and watching Pericles do that. And then really for me, seeing his deep connection to the students that night and their connection to him.
I remember my first year as a Dean's Fellow, some of the students in the G Spot they didn't feel like they were receiving enough institutional support. And Pericles shows up and Charles Balin shows up and all the deans show up, and it's like wow.
I remember during the days when we first started in RC4, he literally know everybody by name, all the students, all the staff. I remember when I first started work, he should go, "Good morning, Zoe," and I was like, "Oh my God, my president knows my name."
Thinking back over the much shorter time that I've been involved with Yale-NUS than many of my colleagues, is I have learned very quickly that when you ask me to lunch, it means that I'm going to get a new job. I'll warn anybody that follows after that if the president asks you to lunch, that you should be aware.
I think the best thing too that I think many of our colleagues will agree with me, and that is that you epitomize that unsaid cliche, but still true. The buck stops here.
I have to say the thing that I think impresses me the most about you is how you've been able to maintain this level of enthusiasm and energy and vision from the very beginning. To be honest, it never occurred to me that we would make such intercontinental life change. And part of why we did was because of you.
I've often said to you that I think you're both right and left-brained. I find that pretty amazing as somebody who's a trained business person. You're much like the students that we're training. You're somebody who can zoom in and zoom out and see the big picture as well as the details.
I will always remember fondly how you listen to our students and how you encourage them to be brave. Thank you for your contribution in making this institution a really truly beautiful work of art. I will miss you.
I remember when we first met in New Haven, Connecticut at a workshop that was imagining what liberal arts would look like in Singapore, and we all sat around for a few days. I think even some Canadians were there, and we all said, this is exactly what needs to be happening in Singapore right now. Everything's fantastic, except this whole common curriculum thing. That's crazy. With your patience and with your leadership over the last 4 years, we've made this into what I would argue is the best liberal arts education in the world.
It's what he said. He said it was going to be easy, and it was. It's what Brian said. And it's been the best part of my experience here, of a wonderful experience. I think the common curriculum is actually a terrific thing. And so thank you for prevailing over Brian and our colleagues.
I had just read the email saying that he had been declared president, and so I said, Pericles, were you expecting this? And he was like, no. Which I don't think he actually meant, but it was a charming and extremely telling light into your soul, which is that you don't want to be the leader and
kind of yanking people around. Rather, you're about persuasion.
It's going to be different, I guess, not having you in our meetings, but I'm sure that you'll be with us in spirit, and I look forward to carrying on the wonderful work that you've done for the college, and I hope to live up to the high standards that you've set for all of us. So Pericles, all the best, enjoy your new work, stay in touch, and hope to see you as often as possible in Singapore.